You're listening to ESOPOD, the Folience ESOP podcast. How was your time off?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. I don't know if I shared with you, but my son Garrett and Emily got engaged while we were down in Florida last week. So that was the purpose of the trip. So
Very cool.
it was really, really awesome. Really
Good.
Awesome. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem.
And my wife turned 60.
Wow.
While we're down
Awesome. Cool. Double party.
there. Double party. Yeah.
How was your road show before that?
Hey, I'll tell you what. Kelly O and I, as you know, we were on the road for the better part of a week. Got to visit with every single location, every single employee owner that was in the facilities that day. And I shared with our board when I got back. I sent them an email. And it was priceless. The ability to get out and see everybody and really see how many awesome employee owners that we have here at Folience. When I was on the board, I had the opportunity to travel to both Lifeline and Cimarron, and certainly over at GCI. And as you know, we've met on occasion with shared services as well.
Yep.
But that's it's a whole different perspective. And, to have the opportunity to go meet the employee owners now as the leader of the organization is really cool. Really cool.
So I know you just did the road show, and so a lot of people have probably gotten to hear this, but maybe if they weren't able to attend, or for new employees, why don't you just briefly introduce yourself? Who are you? Where did you come from? That kind of thing.
Sure. As I joked with most of the locations, my name is actually Tom and not Grace. If you remember, I
Yes.
logged in under my daughter's user ID, but just truly blessed to be here. But a little bit about me and my background. I moved down to Cedar Rapids, believe it or not, in 1981. Most of you guys weren't even born yet. But I came down here, went to Co for my undergrad, and really enjoyed my experience there. But I was going to go to Vanderbilt for grad school. Took a summer job at Collins, and my leader there asked me if I would be willing to stay, and he walked me through a little bit of Finance 101 and what it costs to go to school versus having someone pay for it. So anyway, I stayed here and took a job at Collins, worked there for a number of years, and then really had my first significant career opportunity when I left Collins and went to Norand Corporation. And then from Norand, took the role of CFO at Apache Hose and Belting on the southwest side here in Cedar Rapids, and was there for 20 years, 13 of which I was the CEO. Employee-owned company was my first. In 1998 was when I got introduced to employee ownership, and so at that point in time, I knew ESOP was spelled ESOP, and that's all I knew. But what I know today is the power of employee ownership and the passion I have for employee ownership is amazing. And it got its roots were Apache Hose and Belting, and they deserve a lot of credit for my passion for employee ownership. We, believe it or not, we sold the ESOP in 2017. We sold it to a strategic buyer. It was the best thing for our business, best thing for our participants. They're doing great today under their new leadership and new ownership. So shortly after that, I left the organization, went to Timberline Manufacturing, got back into the employee ownership community, joined the board here at Folience in that window of time as well, and just continued to build my passion and desire for employee ownership. And then when this opportunity came up after my retirement,
yeah, I was going to say, then you retired, right?
As you know, my retirement was approximately 4 weeks, and I may be the first person I know of that actually quit retirement. But this opportunity presented itself, and as I shared with a lot of folks when we were on the road show, I could have said no, and I've known Folience now for 8 years and gotten to know the leadership team really well. A handful of other employee owners I've gotten to know through the course of time. Um, and I just have an affinity and a passion for what we're doing here and want to continue to help build what we've got because we have an awesome thing here. And so I want to do everything I can do to help that.
So you might have answered this question. I was going to ask what led you to take on the role, but so you were on the board. Has there been any significant shift or surprise moving from board to CEO of
Yeah,
Folience?
great question. It's a different vantage point. Matter of fact, as I was meeting with Kelly O'Hara this morning on some other topics, I said, Kelly, you're going to probably experience a number of times where we may have talked about something in the boardroom, but at the boardroom, it's at a certain level, and the conversations we're going to have now are a level below that and a little bit more detail. And so I think the biggest shift for me has been uh, really making that adjustment and having to know that I've been exposed to certain topics, but now I need to really be able to drill down. So I think that's been a big adjustment for me. Believe it or not, I've been in an executive role since 1998. You think, gosh, wouldn't have you figured it out by now? And this is the first time that I've made the transition from a board position to an executive position. And so there's some changes. There's definitely some different vantage points.
So, like you were just saying, you've been involved in ESOPs and ESOP community for quite a while. I was just curious, what keeps you passionate and engaged in employee ownership?
Uh, every CEO better say this, regardless if they're employee owned or not. But the people, first and foremost, I get my energy from being around awesome people. Um, and I think in an employee owned organization, um, we're a different breed of employees. I really truly believe that. But I'm also passionate about the opportunity that employee ownership presents to every single employee owner in terms of their own financial well-being, their own personal well-being. I think what we try to do in the employee ownership community is extend that employee well-being beyond just financial, but also the total person. And so I get pretty jazzed when I know that every day I come to work, I'm certainly impacting my financial well-being, but I get to help impact every single team member that's part of our Foliance group of companies. And I try to share that message with people that, you know, certainly it's okay to be selfish and think of yourself when it comes to your own financial well-being. But I also encourage people to take great pride in knowing that, you know what, Sean, when I woke up this morning and I knew you and I were going to talk, but I can sit here and tell you right now, I have an enormous amount of pride and I get energized by knowing that what I'm doing today, I hope in some way, shape, or form also helps Sean and every other employee owner here at Foliance.
Yeah, I think that's definitely unique to ESOP is you get to work every day knowing that you're not enriching some owner somewhere.
Right.
It's everybody. Everybody is being enriched by what you do.
Maybe a gravel path here, but just a week or two ago, I heard of a scenario. Was actually uh, uh, chatting with a potential candidate at another company, and they were talking to me about it's an amazing company. I know who they are, but that person was sharing a little bit of frustration. They go to work every single day, and the owner was down in the Gulf on a yacht, and that's in employee ownership. There might be some wealth that people can go ride on a yacht. That's all. That's all good. But the opportunity for all of us to share in the fruits of what we do versus it being one or two or even 5 or 10 people. It's 500 people.
Yeah. Yep. So is there anything about ESOPs, maybe a little more technical or not, that you think people misunderstand about how it's organized, how it's structured?
There's, by the way, we in the ESOP community we learn every day. Um, at the end of the day, ESOPs are relatively new in the business world, even though they've been around. I don't even know when ESOP started, to be honest. I know the Gazette was '86, and my former Apache was also '85 or '86 timeframe. Um, so fairly mature ESOP, but there's still new knowledge that's gained all the time. And I think the ESOP community, from a technical perspective and from a fiscal management perspective, learn new things about repurchase obligation and how to better manage it. And because ESOP repurchase obligation can get you in trouble as a company if it's not well managed, and that wasn't well known when either Apache or GCI started, and that is really a focus of how do you make sure that you're managing that benefit level in a better way to better ensure that long-term viability of the employee-owned company. And the other thing that actually this came up, I believe it was at Cimarron. Um, if people don't know this, one of the things I would love for our employee owners to understand is that we're an ongoing entity. Um, yes, I happen to be the leader right now, but when I retire for a second time, um, the next person will come in. There'll be a new leader, and the organization will go on. We're governed by a board of directors, much like a publicly traded company. You think about think about McDonald's Corporation. They've gone through a number of leadership changes as people retire or whatever the cause for the change is, but yet the entity still goes on, and we're not dependent on one single person. We're dependent on the entity to drive for long-term sustainable growth, and not to drive for an exit or a sale transaction.
Yep.
Okay. Um, the other thing about what is employee ownership? What does it mean to be an employee owner versus an employee or versus leadership? And again, I can give the analogy of a publicly traded company. And personally, I happen to own a few shares of McDonald's. I love using McDonald's. I don't know why, but I own a few shares of stock, so I have a vested interest in the financial success of McDonald's Corporation and their corporate social responsibility. That as a shareholder, but I don't get to vote on everything. I don't get to be part of every single decision. Management still has a role in an employee-owned company, just like they do in any company. We, as employees, also have a role in an employee-owned company, almost exactly like every other company. And I say almost because I think we have an elevated level of responsibility as employees to each other, and that's part of the uniqueness of employee ownership and what makes it a little bit special. So. There's my little spiel on employee ownership. I could go on and on and on, dude, if you want me to.
That's great. No, that's perfect. So when you became CEO, I looked at your socials and saw that you post pretty frequently on LinkedIn, um, about stuff, people that you're celebrating, or ESOP things in general. I wanted to ask, how do you think a CEO's visibility out there, like a CEO putting themselves up in the front and center, how do you think that affects culture at a company?
So I want to start with pride. Part of my role as CEO can sometimes define it also as the CCO, the Chief Culture Officer. Um, that's the majority of my role. And so I want folks, and it's another analogy. You're going to get tired of my analogies, right? But when an employee owner is in the line at the grocery store, and someone behind him says, "Hey, where do you work?" And I want you to be able to stand strong and say, "I work for Folience, or I work at Lifeline, or Cimarron, or the Gazette, or I'm in shared services and we're part of the Folience group of companies." I want people to be able to say that with pride. And also, part of that pride comes back from the person you're talking to saying, "Hey, I know exactly who you guys are," or I've seen Tom do an interview, or gosh, I've seen your logo as a sponsor at ESOP 101, whatever the scenario may be. So social media, whether it's me, but or others, it's about getting the brand out and sharing really cool and awesome things about the company, about maybe individual employees, groups of employees, customers, suppliers, and really helping build our brand. And I'll circle right back to pride and generating pride in our organization. And to your original question, um, I get the privilege by my role. I get the privilege of being the face of the organization. I get the accolades. Um, I get some other stuff too that isn't always so fun. But I'm humbled by that opportunity and the privilege that you guys have entrusted me and empowered me to represent your organization. I don't take that lightly. It's a pretty cool thing. It carries with it a level of responsibility, again, that I don't take lightly. And I want the organization to be proud of the way I'm representing you.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So that sort of defines what the role of a CEO is, I would say. Is there anything beyond? You said being the chief culture officer. What other roles would a CEO have in a company?
Yeah, you mean other than being this like pretty face?
Yeah.
Actually, one of our other leaders, I think that's one of his or her lines. Um, so I'm here to help guide. Uh, I'm here as a coach, and I'm here to get us to play as a team. I guarantee you, this leadership team that we have and employee owners that we have are far smarter than I am. Um, but one of the things that I like to do is to coach and to unite people as a team and figure out how we can be more successful together than we can as individuals. And so the way I see my role, and you guys heard me, give the Coach Ferentz analogy, right? He's a business leader, and what he does is puts together a great leadership team. He brings in great, I hate to say it in today's college sports world, but the analogy to employees, he brings in great team members, and then figures out a strategy and a game plan with his leadership team, and then they go execute um, uh, their game plan. And that's part of the role here, and also making sure that people understand the game plan and know where we're going. And I think when you don't know if you've gotten to where you want to be if you haven't defined where you're going. And I think that's really, really important. Right? And I guarantee you, Coach Ferentz has a game plan. His team members, his coaching staff, they know where they're going and they know how to adjust. And that's my role. That's my role.
Well, speaking of having a game plan, I was going to ask, what is your vision for Foliance and the companies over the next few years?
Pure and simple growth and success. So that's the easy answer. And uh, but when I think about short-term priorities, one of the priorities is for Folience at the Folience level to develop a strategic plan, so that we really do understand where we're going as the holding company. What's our strategy for growth? Is it more acquisitions? Is it more investments in our existing companies? What is that strategy for growth and success? Because at the end of the day, what we all want to achieve is long-term viable success as an entity, and drive that share price, continue to drive long-term sustainable growth. So what's our strategy to get there? What's our roadmap to get there? All of the business units have done an amazing job of developing their respective plans. Now, how do we tie that together at the Folience level? I've already talked about coaching. I think, from a priority perspective, coaching and leadership development, making sure that we continue to perpetuate the environment of continual learning, in particular at a leadership level, or folks individual contributor level that want to learn more, gain more knowledge and skills. And then also part of that is succession planning. And I think as an organization, um, we have some opportunity to develop a succession plan. That doesn't mean that we identify who Tom's successor is necessarily, but what it means is that we know if something happens to Tom, somebody we know who that next person it is, or we know who may have that desire, and we can help put together some learning and development opportunities for whether it's my role, whether it's a shop floor supervisor role, whether it's an engineer. It doesn't really matter, but we need to have a succession plan, and we'll start that first and foremost at the senior level, and then each business unit can cascade that down.
That's perfect. Yeah, I know you should be able to retire someday, right? And have it
Yeah,
stick.
yeah, and it's even beyond, retirement is the goal, but things happen in life, and we need to be prepared for things to happen. Retirement is a planned event, but we have to also be prepared for those unplanned events, so that again the organization can continue to operate successfully in the absence of a key leader or a key individual.
Yeah, in IT, it's a little grim, but we talk about the bus factor sometimes. So
Yeah,
like if XYZ person gets hit by a bus and is
yeah,
out for a while, like what do you do? It's kind of like disaster recovery or
yeah,
BCP type planning.
absolutely, absolutely.
So this might tie some of these pieces together. Speaking of like education and people understanding where the company's going. So if there was a new person just starting, what would you want them to know about Foliance?
Yeah. So I'm in that boat,
That's true. Well,
right?
you're cheating. You were here for a while as
I,
like kind of on the sidelines watching, or as the
I have a
board.
little different spin on it,
Yeah,
right? But as a new person coming in at one of our business units, including shared services, right? Whether it's one of the operating entities or shared services, somebody coming into the organization, understanding who Foliance is, why are we part of Foliance, how does that make our company better, how does it make Foliance better, um, how can I contribute to the success not only of my company but to all of the Foliance employee owners. So I think there's a lot for employees to understand about the holding company structure, and where do I fit in, and how can I add value, because it is a little different than just walking into a company that isn't part of something bigger. So I think there are some great materials that have been produced historically, and I think we just need to continue to perpetuate that message. And I think part of the onboarding process is the start of that messaging. Actually, the interviewing should be the start of that messaging. Um,
that's a good point. Where you don't just have to be responsible for your job, like your little box of things that you make, but you also like, oh, hey, by the way, you're responsible for everybody's success.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And really that messaging that, the sum of all of these individual pieces, if you add those all up together, is greater than the sum of, or the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the individual pieces. And I think that's something unique about this type of structure is that we do, regardless of where we play in the organization, we're part of something bigger. And that can be a hard concept to articulate. And I think we just have to recognize we got to continue to help people understand that message and connect the dots.
Is there anything that you would say motivates you personally?
Okay, people. I'm gonna come, I said that early on in our discussion. Uh, I know when Kelly O and I were on the road, and I had the opportunity to spend some time with Ben driving between Chickasha and Manhattan, and similar conversations came up, Sean, and I get pretty passionate, I get pretty wound up, hopefully for the most part in a positive way, and I was rambling about something, and Ben asked me that question. He goes, "What motivates you?" And I looked at him and I said, "You and 499 others. I just get energized by people." So, those of you that are watching this part of the podcast know I get my energy from you, and what motivates me beyond just you is helping uh, lead you to success, helping see success. And what I love as a leader is when whatever the scenario might be, when the light bulb goes off and an employee owner just it goes almost from tears to smiles. Um, and I don't like to see anyone in tears, but when that light bulb goes off and you see someone who wants to get it, when they get it, whatever it um, is really, really gratifying. So people motivate me, seeing people succeed, and success comes in a whole lot of different ways. It doesn't need to be title, it doesn't need to be money. I like to see people loving what they do. And when we get there across the board, that's awesome.
So loving it, kind of tie back to McDonald's a little bit. Uh, how about the other side of it? Where if you're not loving it, like how do you reset after you have a bad day or you deal with the not so fun stuff?
Yeah. And for all of us, not every day is a good day. Uh, but hopefully, the overwhelming majority of the days are good days. And so I too have to reset. And there will be days where I'll have not so good days. Hopefully the organization doesn't know that. Um, but I have them too. And I fully recognize so does everybody else. Um, so how do I reset? Depending on what time of the year it is, I either get my chainsaw, go and take out my aggressions on a tree or two that need to be trimmed up, or go work in my yard. The point being, get my mind, do something that gets my mind off of the day, even if it's for 30 minutes. And often that's sitting down and having dinner with the family. And my wife, we've been married for nearly 30 years, so she knows me pretty doggone well. And I think she can tell when I haven't had a good day. And that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily nasty or grumpy or owly. I might be distracted. Um, and I'm just like every single one of you. You have the same challenges every day, and I'd encourage you to figure out a way to do that reset. And I will share that I don't have a routine to go home and reset. Often it's my commute. Believe it or not, that's my recal time. And uh, what I will share is resetting, even on a good day. recalibrating is very, very healthy. And I don't care what your role is in the organization. Um, the discussion didn't come up at every location. But when we were on our tour last week or week before, um, we started talking about safety at a couple of the manufacturing facilities. And one of the things that I want all of us to be thinking about first and foremost is, we want everybody to go home tonight in the same physical condition that they arrived this morning. And we want you back here tomorrow morning in the same physical condition in which you left here this afternoon. But the piece I love to add is physical well-being is one element, but also mental well-being, emotional well-being is the other aspect. So we've got to take care of ourselves physically. And so safety is about both physical and mental well-being. And so uh, sometimes we ignore the mental well-being side and think that that's only for people that are having major challenges. Don't kid yourself. We all need to reset mentally, and whatever that is, 30 seconds a day, find some way to recalibrate. That's a really good question, by the way.
Thanks.
I
Yeah,
don't know if I answered it for you, but it was a good question.
so I know we do safety stuff as a company. We have a safety committee. I'm on the safety committee, a couple of them. Um, for that's physical safety, though. What do you think the company or a company could do to help maintain the mental health, mental well being?
Well, I'm going to say that actually I think Folience does some things, and maybe not real overt about it, but honestly, the whole wellness program that I'm getting acclimated to, uh, because some of those activities not only lead to physical well-being, but they lead to mental and emotional well-being as well. So I think our wellness program, kudos to the folks that were involved in designing that. I think that's really, really awesome. And honestly, much beyond that, Sean, it's a little bit early for me to gauge. Um, but just some of the dialogue that I hear and in the concern that I hear in some of that dialogue about not only people's physical well-being but their emotional well-being um, tells me that we've got at least I think we have better than a fundamental understanding of the need for both.
Yeah. I was going to ask what do you do on your commute? Do you listen to any music or podcasts?
You know, um, that's interesting. So my commute's a little shorter now than it was when I was up at Timberline, and you know, it was strange because when my father was alive, Sean, every night on my commute home, I talked to Dad. Uh, Sorry, a little choked up there, but so dad's no longer with us. So often on my commute home, it's literally catching up with Christine. Uh, okay, how was your day? Do you need anything? What do the kids got going on tonight? What do we have going on tonight? So uh, my commute home often is just kind of catching up and what's the plan for the night. And just believe it or not, it's a little bit of time that my wife and I actually get to talk to each other without the dog yipping at her legs or my legs or the kids running through the house and needing something. Um, so I use the commute home for that. The commute in the morning often is I listen to news. And yeah, I get some of my news from Z102.9, and I love listening to the morning scramble. Um, I haven't been a huge podcast person. And I was sharing that with a couple of folks. I said, you guys are going to teach me how to do podcasts and get deep into podcasts because it's a great time to just learn. And I like to once in a while, I'll throw in a book on tape, and I find myself having to listen to it over and over again because it wouldn't be very safe if I were paying real close attention to every word. um, but it's also good to have that book going in the background as a little bit of subliminal education and kind of chilling as well. I did try a little bit of I don't want to say yoga music. Oh man, I can't come up with the term, but uh, just some real chill, like love waterfalls or river.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Like atmospheric, like
yeah,
soundscape type
just
stuff.
some stuff to kind of, especially if I'm leaving here in a day that I'm pretty stressed out. Though I might flip on a little bit of river, little bit of river water. I don't know if I answered that very well. I
Yeah.
try to.
No. So let's talk about when you actually get home. What kind of things do you like doing outside of work?
Yeah, you've heard me talk about family a lot. And, um, I'm blessed with a great family, so that's the priority generally. Work commitments um, are first for the most part, but if we're able to work around that, we try to eat dinner together. It's only the three of us at home right now, or soon it'll be just Christine and I at home, but we try to make a point of doing dinner together. Um, we love being outside. Both Christine and I we do different things when we're outside, but we love to be out tinkering in the flower gardens. I love to mow lawn, believe it or not. I like to play a little golf. Yeah, I'm no good, but I like to play. Um, what else do we do? Uh, we like to travel. We don't do enough of it. Yeah.
Have you been out
I,
to Pin Seekers, the driving
I've been to
range?
Twin Seekers. I live like 5 miles from there. I've never been there.
Okay.
I haven't, but with my son's wedding and another occasion, I got to play top golf a couple of times this
Okay.
spring. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. I was saying that because I do not golf at all, but I have gone to Pin Seekers a couple times. It's more like playing a game than golfing,
I think
which is
Pin
my
Seekers,
wheelhouse.
I think Pin Seekers or top golf, those venues are great environments to get somebody together that either has never golfed in their life. Maybe you're a good golfer, maybe you're a great golfer, and everybody can sit around the same booth and have a good time.
Yeah, yeah. The IT group went out,
Oh,
and so
cool.
there's definitely a couple people, myself included, that are on the never golf terrible side of things.
I tell people when I golf, someone asks me how many times I've swung the club this year, and a lot, probably 3,000 times, and I've played 2 rounds. I have to, you said, what else do I do outside of work? I mean, we're a diehard Hawkeye family, and so we go to I think every home football game. Unfortunately, this year we've got a couple of weddings that are going to interfere with Hawkeye football, but yeah, we're big Hawkeye fans. All three kids, 2 of them have graduated from Iowa. My youngest will be heading down there this fall.
Great.
So yeah,
Well, thank you very much for talking to me, Tom. It's been great.
yeah, Sean, appreciate the opportunity and really, most important to all the employee owners. Thank you for the opportunity to serve in this role and in this capacity. And I can't wait to meet everybody and get to know everybody a little bit better. And let's go have some fun.
Thanks for listening to ESOPOD. If you want to get in touch, send me an email at esopod@folience.com.